Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is The Amateur, where we're here just to talk life, hobbies, politics, ideologies, what have you. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking parenting and the government. And you might be asking yourself, what does that subject have to do with the title and the thumbnail of this video? You shall see. Anywho, so a while ago, November 17th, 2021, on episode 840 of the Matt Walsh Show, hosted by the Daily Wire, my comment got shouted out by Matt Walsh, and it took me a while to find it, to find that specific episode. I liked it, but I didn't realize it was a whole ordeal. But pretty much the point of the matter, though, is that my comment got deleted in the actual comment section, so I don't have like actual proof or evidence other than him saying my YouTube handle in the video. But this is my comment got shouted out, and this is the response video, and it is all going to be really relevant. But I'll just go ahead and play the clip, play the film.
And finally, the amateur says, Matt, why would you lie to your kids about the mythical nature of Santa? My parents never even allowed us to believe that Santa was real, despite how the world works, and let us know that our presents came from them to appropriately place our gratitude. Also, Jesus being the reason for the season. I expect better of you. Yeah. Your parents are so much better than me. Thank you for that. I can only hope to bask in their in the light of their superiority. So thank you for that. Now, again, I take from your comment here, you're talking about your parents. That means that you don't have kids. Okay? And don't take this the wrong way, but in general, if you don't have kids, your opinion on anything parent-related is completely irrelevant and silly. No offense. Here's what you have to understand about young kids. The words "not real" to a young child don't mean anything. Okay? That doesn't, they don't, at a certain age, kids who are 3-4 years old, they don't understand the difference between fantasy and reality. There's just a conceptual disconnect. And so you can tell them, you could say, well, Santa's not real. That doesn't mean anything to them. Because to them, they feel like Santa is real. I mean, and then leftists, even as adults, they still operate this way. They operate like a 4-year-old. All 4-year-olds are kind of leftists in a certain way. So at 4, from their perspective, they feel like Santa is real. They've seen him on TV. They've seen him at the mall. And to say he's not real, even though I've seen him and I feel like he's real, to them, that doesn't mean anything. And that's why, as I said yesterday, kids also at that age believe that dragons are real and fairies are real. And they think that all the superheroes that they see on TV are also real and flying around. That's the world they live in, and it's a fun world. It's much more fun than the real world, let's be honest. So in order to break your kids and to make sure of this belief, you have to take all of those fantasies and all of that imagination away from them. Did your parents also work really hard to make sure you didn't believe in dragons and fairies? When you came in and said, oh, Daddy, I saw a fairy in the garden. No, you didn't. Fairies aren't real. Is that how it worked? See, I'm not going to do that to my kids. And that's why it goes this way.
All right, so y'all heard that, right? Okay. So that was about a 2-minute, 30-second rant from the Matt Walsh from my comment. So, did I win YouTube for the day? I kind of did. Oops. Anyway, though, so just kind of responding to that, Matt Walsh's response. Guilty as charged. I don't have any children, thankfully, because I am remaining absent until marriage. Good thing. However, and I'm not taking any of his comments personally, I do feel that he has some sort of insatiable need to be right all the time, which is fair. But no, a couple of things is that, one, yes, to the question about my parents, they did make sure that just as firmly as we didn't believe in Santa Claus, we also did not believe in fairies or dragons. But, growing up in a Christian household, I think my parents they had to be very careful with how they determine things, because obviously we believe in the Holy Spirit, which is something that is of the supernatural. So, that's in the realm of fairies and dragons, and as well as with the Holy Spirit, you also have demons, you have all that negative energy. So I think they did a pretty decent job of having us balance with like real reality and imagination reality, and like biblical, biblical real, if that makes any sense, but real. Either way, though, but no, that didn't stifle our imagination or our creativity. I think, especially for myself and all of my sisters, I think I mentioned this before. We grew up as avid readers, and so we were always reading. A lot of our summers were spent in the library. Punishment was taking our books away. We would be waking up in the middle of the night at like midnight and 1 a.m. just so we could finish the next chapter of our book. And so yes, we would never go, at least as early as I can remember, because we were reading at a very, very young age, but we wouldn't go out and like say that there's a fairy. You still have this kind of thing as like a kid where you kind of want the fake things, the fairies and magical things to be real. I remember I think we all had the same childhood where we'd be in the shower and the water would be dripping down our fingers and I'd pretend like I'm water bending or something stupid like that. But I know that I wasn't actually water bending. Like I had that fine disconnect between reality and what was a part of my imagination, part of that creativity, whatever. But I think it also all stemmed with not lying to your children. And I would also disagree on the finer point that Matt Walsh said, as far as I agree to extent, but I disagree fundamentally. I think there is more value or more weight to an actual parent giving their input on parenting than someone who is single or someone who has never had experienced parenthood in any sort of way, shape, or form. However, I think as it comes to anything of a moral issue, that you can have an opinion on something, whether you actually fit in that category or not. Otherwise, you would, if you don't have a uterus, you don't get to say whether someone kills their child or not. It kind of supports that. So on those lines of what Matt Walsh was saying, as far as with having it be okay to lie to your child because they aren't able to distinguish or aren't able to determine whether they are whether they can actually discern the truth or not. And I think that's one of the arguments that I feel is in most favorable towards the pro-abortion side, as far as with the child that you're killing is never going to know that what they've missed on the rest of the life. They're never going to know the joys, not going to know the laughter. They're never going to know, they might know the pain and hurt because some children do feel that pain, but as far as with all the other, they're never going to know what they're missing, essentially. And but does that make killing them okay? And so that's kind of the argument, the thought line that I see as Matt Walsh defends his reasoning for why he lies to his children about Santa Claus being real or not. But obviously I don't believe that Matt Walsh is actually pro-abortion. He's been one of the most adamant fighters for a woman, for children, for the truth, and as you see that with all the work that he's been pushing in the public sphere. But obviously titles like this are meant to be somewhat inflammatory to draw people near, so don't come for me in the comments for all you was it Sweet Baby Gang members or whatever. But no, so obviously, I don't believe that Matt Walsh is actually in favor of abortion, but I do think that logic and reasoning of doing something wrong just because the other person doesn't know that it's wrong, or doesn't know, or is unable to, or doesn't have the capabilities or the merits to determine or distinguish between the right or the wrong of it, the truth or non-truth, the reality or not, it doesn't make it okay. And again, that's like the same reasoning with the transgenderism. Some could argue as far as with those that seem to support this ideology, but it's more harmful to affirm falsehoods than it is to tell them the truth, though it may hurt someone's feelings in the end. You know what I mean? So things of that nature, just keep them in line. But again, the even bigger picture of this, as far as with having an opinion on parenting, I think it's something where, again, like I said before, parents are people who have actually had children, are currently in this climate and currently trying to raise their child however they see fit, whether you are of the Christian faith or not, or whether you do or don't have children. I think those who are actually parents and are going through that will have a little bit more weight and input from their own personal experience than those that do not. But I feel, and I'm pretty sure, that I am still able to have that opinion of parenting. And so I think what we're facing right now in our culture, especially when it does come to parenting, which is steps ahead of just even the broken households, broken families, broken marriages, people not actually taking their vows seriously. So I think the parenting issue is even down the line if you're talking about the steps that lead to it. But even with parenting, I think the biggest divide right now is who ought to raise the children. And you'll hear a lot of arguments of, it takes a village to raise. I want to say Hillary Clinton may have stated, obviously many people have stated this, but her most recently being the one to kind of promote this more so than anyone else, that it takes a village to raise a child or things of that nature. These aren't just your kids, these are all of our kids.
And we have learned that to raise a happy, healthy, and hopeful child, it takes a family. It takes teachers. It takes clergy. It takes business people. It takes community leaders. It takes those who protect our health and safety. It takes all of us. Yes, it takes a village. Takes a president. It takes a president who believes not only in the potential of his own child, but of all children.
And it's like, no, that's not, no. I know that when I have kids, and those would be my kids, like, this is my responsibility, that's my duty, and no one else's. Understanding, though, that we live in a society, but the divide right now is who ought to raise the kids. And I think what it has been for the most part in the past is that the default for raising kids ought to be the parents until that duty or responsibility has been proven or shown to be, that they felt that task. And then it goes to the government. And by government, I mean the foster care system to take that child out. So I think that there's a phrase or a quote that has been floating around the internet as far as with like, every child deserves parents, but not every parent deserves children. Because obviously there are some parents that participate in child abuse and all those other evil natures that go towards children, even though they're supposed to have that responsibility and care to take care of their children and raise them in the way that they then become upstanding members of society. Continue to add to, be creative, inventive, or just be that weldsman, that builder, whatever that they're going to be a productive member of society, that their parents ought to do, that ought to have that position. But I think right now it's been starting to be like, these aren't like, you're just as the parents, you're just the people who create them, but now once they're born they belong to the government and we need to raise them our way. And by our way I mean the government's way, however they want to phrase that in the public schooling systems. But I think we need to go back to that the default of parenting is to the parents until that's proven not to be worthwhile. But I think what we've lacked as a society is to, I think, put the importance, I think we do, but we don't put the importance of parenting. Like, it's not, like, again, I say this as, again, not a parent, so as someone who's outside looking in, but as far as I understand and from my experience as a child and my experience and my relationship to my parents, like, it's not an easy job for sure. And like my parents raising 4 girls, like, it's not easy. It's definitely a sacrifice. But there's no one that's going to care more about their child than a parent, unless that parent is got something wrong in their head and is abandoning them or wants to treat them as that power, or wants to abuse that power structure that's in place. It's in place for a reason. Like, the power structure is supposed to be there, but it needs to be used wisely, among other things. And I can really go more in depth on this, but I don't want to make this video too long. Point of the matter, though, is that Matt Walsh needs to be careful about his thinking and about lying to his kids about Santa Claus. And that it's okay for millennial non-parents to have an opinion on parenting, whether they have kids or not, but to hope that the opinion is the right opinion or a good opinion. But those are just my thoughts. What do y'all think about the subject at hand? Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.